Don't play with the Ouija board. When I was 13, I had a sleepover with a couple of friends. We listened to music, watched movies, the usual sleepover stuff. When it was about 2 a.m., still neither one of us were tired. The girls started complaining that they were so bored. I had to make sure that was the most memorable sleepover of their lives. Went down to the basement and brought up a few board games. We played for maybe about an hour. When we went to go put the board games back, one of my friends spotted my dad's old Ouija board. This was my first time ever seeing it. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but the Ouija board wasn't there when I originally grabbed the board games. I kept saying no, but then they both started to beg me. Ever since that night, I've had insomnia. It was 8 years ago, and to this day, I'm still afraid to be alone. When I am alone, it never feels like it. Sometimes I still wake up with mysterious bruises or scratches in random places. Please, whatever you do.
I have a Ouija board story time. If this is the type of content that you're into, feel free to follow along. I post a story every single day. The person who submitted this wishes to remain anonymous, so let's call her Sophia. When Sophia was about 14 years old, her sister, and a couple of their friends decided to start playing with the Ouija board. At first, they didn't think anything of it. They had actually come into contact with a 12-year-old boy who had drowned. Due to this, they of course felt sympathy for him. Everything was fine until one day Sophia decided not to play with the board. She actually had a phone call, so Sophia's sister and her friends decided to play while Sophia was in the next room on the phone. When out of nowhere, she hears screams coming from the room. Sophia, of course, runs into the room. When she runs into the room, she sees that no one has their hand on the planchette, but the planchette is moving around like crazy, spelling out Sophia over and over and over again. This, of course, freaked everybody out. Sophia's uncle is actually a pastor, so she called and told him about the board. At first, he was of course angry with her for playing with the board, but decided to pray with her over the phone and told her of a few prayers for her to recite anytime she felt afraid. After this, none of the girls wanted to go anywhere near the board. They actually put the board away without even saying goodbye. Although they stopped playing with it, it did not stop bothering them. At times, the board would just randomly fly out of the closet right into the girls anytime they would be in the room. They tried countless times to get rid of the board, but every time they got rid of it, it would just magically show up back at the house. Eventually, they did manage to get rid of the board by giving it to Sophia's uncle, who was a pastor. They're not exactly sure what he did to dispose of it, but after he took it, it never came back. So if you've ever thought about playing with a Ouija board, don't. Just don't. It's not worth it. And even if you get rid of it and you think you are cleansed of whatever you came into contact with, you're never fully cleansed. These things remember you. They remember your face, they remember your name, and even if they're dormant, they never stop following you.
Whatever you do not talk to Zozo. I did this and messed up so bad. First of all, you guys shouldn't even be using Ouija boards. But I know some of you guys are not gonna listen to me, and talking to him is a no-no. Actually, you can't even say his name out loud 3 times or you will summon him. When I was 16, I accidentally summoned Nozo. Before I tell you what happened, let me tell you a little bit about who Bozo is. Toto is also known as the Ouija board demon. Of all the things to talk to on a Ouija board, he's not it. He is supposedly a fallen angel that was banished from the heavens by God. Some people even compare him to the actual devil. In the 1940s, a little boy named Roland Doe was possessed. It has become a widespread belief that Toto is the one that possessed him. This little boy's story is what inspired the first exorcism movie. I'm Nikki, and if you're new to my channel, I'm a professional ghost hunter. One of the reasons you have to be so careful with Ouija boards and talking to Toenail is because he can actually mimic voices of the dead. And a lot of times people using Ouija boards are wanting to talk to dead loved ones. He will prey on your insecurities and your fears, and overall he just sucks. He delights in scaring people, so whether that's telling you you're gonna pass soon or telling you there's 9 ghosts instead of 2 in the house, he even goes as far as to confuse psychics by telling them things like he's a little boy ghost and he's scared of the big bad ghost in the corner. There's a malevolent spirit in the house, but really there's only one, and it's him. He is a master deceiver, and we can go through the whole history of Bobo. Some people even think he's the only spirit that you actually talk to through a Ouija board, which I hope that is not the case because I've used a Ouija board a lot in my life. It was Halloween and I was in high school. Now, I grew up in a small town, and if you're in a small town, you most likely have one of these. Around Halloween, a bunch of like haunted hayride things will pop up. It's like the thing to do. do with friends or a date. And I was a theater kid, so when my friend Connor from theater class asked me if I wanted to go on this haunted hayride, I said yes. Now, I didn't see Connor as anything more than a friend, and actually one of my friends had a crush on Connor. So when we went on the hayride and Connor tried to kiss me, I was caught off guard to say the least. But I'm a girl's girl, and I'm not about to do my friend like that. This is Piper, my haunted doll, and she's gonna play Connor for this demonstration. Because I know there's some girls out there that will be like, oh, well, he kissed me, I didn't kiss him. This is how you be avoiding that. He comes in like this, and I'm like, anyways, I swerve Connor. You're probably like, what does this have to do with ghost hunting, Nikki? Well, I didn't do anything risky in high school. I didn't sleep with people. I didn't drink, nothing of that sort. So when Connor decided to come up with a rumor to boost his ego at school the next day, the most realistic thing he could come up with was that I was a witch. And boy, did people believe that one. Yes, I dyed my hair black. Yes, I had a black cat. But I was at church every Wednesday. Y'all know small town rumors, they don't just disappear. So being the queen that I am, and I heard this rumor, I embraced it. And if everyone thinks I'm a witch and they think I'm gonna like curse them or something, which I know that's not all witches do, but that's a pro in my book. So after second period, this girl I've never met comes up to me. The quiet, shy girl that sits in the back of the class. And I have never spoken to this girl in my life. The first thing she says to me is, so I heard you're a witch. And I'm like, call me Ursula, what can I do for you, baby? I'm thinking this girl's gonna be asking me for like a love potion or something, which I would have no idea how to make. No, she says, my house is haunted. Can you get rid of the ghost? Theater Nikki activates. Of course I can get rid of your ghost. Now at this point I already believed in ghosts because I grew up in a haunted house. But this girl did not have a ghost. She had a demon. We'll get to that later. I fill a spray bottle about this size that's clear with water. I show up at her house and tell her it's holy water. I spray it around her house. And then before I leave I tell her actually I'm not a witch. But yeah, this was funny. That's how I met my best friend. So that's how this all got started. The house that I grew up in was also haunted, but we'll get into that later. First, let me tell you a little bit about the thing that was in her house. At the time, we didn't know anything about spirits or ghosts. This thing had a weird affiliation with the snow globe that she kept in her closet. He would appear as a shadow man and he would pace around her room at night, specifically between the hours of 2 and 3 a.m. We knew there was something there, but we didn't know who it was or what it wanted. So we looked up how to talk to ghosts, and that's where we learned about Ouija boards. How bad can they be? You can get them at your local Toys R Us. Is my age showing with that one? When you first get a Ouija board and you open the box, there's a few rules. Rule number 1, never play alone. Rule number 2, never play in a graveyard. Rule number 4, you never let it go to the 4 corners of the board or make a figure 8. You also never leave the planchette on the board because that opens a portal. Rule number 5, always keep your fingers on the planchette until you say goodbye. And last but not least, the most important rule, always say goodbye. We were young, we were naive, we didn't read instruction manuals. Are you kidding? We basically broke every single one of these rules. But we started using the board to talk to the ghost in her house. We would ask it things like, does my crush like me back? Will so-and-so break up? Who's gonna go to prom with who? But the scary part was, it was always right. And because it was always right, we became addicted to playing with the board because we wanted to know more. Wouldn't you want to know more?
So this is my second time trying to tell this story. I'm not going to do all those cuts and fancy thing that people on TikTok do. I'm just going to tell the story. So when I was 18 or 19, I was with my mom. I'm from a small city in Illinois, Southern Illinois, basically. And we were riding around one day and we happened to come across this yard sale. So she wanted to stop and I said, okay, let's go see what they got. So we get there and you can tell everything that had been laying on the table, everything was basically covered in like a fine layer of dust. So either it was in an attic or a garage or something, I don't know. But I was looking on the tables and I saw an Ouija board. It was fully intact. It had, on the inside of the box, it had the board and the planchette. So I asked my mom if I could have it, and she said yeah, and so took it home. Fast forward to maybe 6 months. I never opened it, by the way. So fast forward 6 months, I get my own place, I box it up, and I put it in the utility closet. Fast forward another 3 months, I finally remember that I have the Ouija board, so I was already out. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna stop and pick up like this cheap bottle of vodka, and I'm gonna go home and play with the board. So I get home, and remind you, I had stored my box in a utility closet. So I opened up the utility closet, and I guess the water heater that was in it had leaked or something. But I had it stored in a just a regular cardboard box. Completely soaked the box and everything that was in it, including the Ouija board. Completely warped the board. It was ruined. I couldn't use it, so I had no choice but to throw it away. Well, next day I call out maintenance to have them come look at the water heater because I don't want it to continue to leak. And they come out, they open up the utility closet, they poke around, look around. They said that they couldn't find a leak. So I don't know, was it some sort of intervention or something? Because like I said, I had a bottle of liquor and it was ready to go.
I can literally tell you the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. And I made it when I was in the 3rd grade. In this life, there's no do-overs, there's no take-backs. But if I had a time machine and I was only allowed to go to one place, I'd go there. I would warn sweet, little loving and trusting Colette, don't do it. Don't you do it. Put that Ouija board away. The biggest mistake, the biggest hands down, was playing with the Ouija board when I was young. In fact, I didn't just play with it, I became obsessed with it. And a very particular spirit whose name was Steve. Steve supposedly died in a car accident in the 50s, and I always knew it was him because he would make a figure 8. He was sad and he was lonely, and he was my friend. I loved Steve so much, I actually used to make my mom put a place for him at the dinner table. And when I'd get home from school, I would be so anxious to talk to him again with that board. I had no idea what I was doing or who I was talking to. It wasn't Steve. And I opened a door to a world, a very dark place, into demons, a door that I didn't know how to close. A door little Colette didn't even know she had opened at all. I had it all. I was genuinely the most beautiful, kind, compassionate, loving child. I still am. I'm just a bigger version of her today. My childhood was perfect. We didn't have much, but we never knew that. My parents made sure that we were so loved, we thought we had it all. I literally think back so often. I often think back, I think about it a lot. What would my life have been had I never gotten a hold of that board? After playing with that Ouija board, my mom got a little upset. She noticed I was becoming obsessed, and she insisted that it get thrown away. Reluctant and angry, I threw a fit, but I went to bed, as my dad threw it out in the alley in the garbage can. The next morning, I was awoken by my mom, and she was angry. She's the sweetest little lady, but when she's mad, she's mad. I couldn't even figure out why she was angry, and I was trying to still wake up. When I understood, she was insisting that I actually defied her and went out in the garbage at night, big no-no, and retrieved the board and put it back in my room. I was so confused, I didn't know what she was talking about, but then I glanced up and I saw the board on my dresser. I didn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I never defied my parents, not when I was young. I think it freaked my dad out because I remember him breaking the board and driving it directly to the town dump. It never came back. It didn't have to. The demon had already been invited into my life. If I were to tell you the story of my life was not the life I was intended to have at all. Riddled with pain, suffering, horrible decisions, horrible people, horrible things happened to me the rest of my entire life. There were 28 girls recently hospitalized, all lost consciousness after playing a Ouija board in Colombia at a school. Now is not the time to be playing with Ouija board. CERN has successfully opened a portal and flooded this entire world with demonic forces and entities, and they are just hunting for victims to find. Don't you ever let me hear that you'll ever play with a Ouija board. Please, I'd give anything to take that back.
I wasn't gonna make this a video because it was just something that I was talking to my mom with. I was with her yesterday and I just got curious and was like, did you ever experience anything paranormal growing up? The stories that she told me, first of all, she told me 2. I'm gonna tell you 1 right now. So my mom grew up in Matamoros, which is border to Brownsville, Texas. She became a US citizen when she was 12. This story happened when she was around 10 or 11 and they lived in Matamoros. My mom has like 12 or 13 siblings. I could be wrong. It's a lot. And she said that her and one of my aunts would see her older brother play the Ouija board with one of his friends. My mom said that she saw when they would place the Ouija board and hide it on top of a dresser. So one day, her and my aunt decided to climb the dresser and play the Ouija board. Again, they were like 10 or 11 years old, so she said that they were asking very stupid questions. One of the questions that she asked was, is it nighttime or daytime? And that the planchette went to the sun, and yes, it was daytime. So she said that the next question that they asked was, are you God? And that it went to no. After that, they both got like so scared, left the planchette and like ran away. Mind you, she says that they never said goodbye. She also says that after that, things in that house would get a little crazy, like things would move. It was just insane. Like, and I don't know why while she was telling me this, I kept thinking of like The Conjuring, only because of all the girls they had, and my grandmother had like all of these kids, like 12 or 13 kids. Oh my god, why do I not know the amount? Anyway, this dresser will come to play, and then in the other story that she told me, which that second story I had heard when I was little, but I never got the full details, nor did I ever ask because I was young and it was scary. But I'll try to make the video of that story later on, I promise.
Now, before you start, because I know what you're gonna say. Why did you do that? You're stupid. What the hell? I know. This all started because I bought the Ouija board at Spirit Halloween for a school project in college. So in this class thing, we basically had to make a movie, and it was like a horror movie. So we chose a Ouija board, and we pretended that we were all possessed by a Ouija board. You see how this is a bad idea? And I'm not talking just like a little bit. No. I know. Long story short, we ended up actually using the board for fun. Not knowing how to use it, what to do, the proper ways to say goodbye, not even knowing that you're not supposed to lift your hand off the thing, nothing. And of course, we play it in my bedroom where I sleep. And when we weren't filming, I put the board underneath my bed. We also brought the board to the cemetery for part of the filming. You can see where this is going. Anyway, it got so bad that it led to needing an exorcist. I'm not kidding. Because first, this kind of stuff would happen. Okay, how about this? The belt by itself. Okay, how about this? Yeah. And then I show that I have goosebumps because I'm like so freaked out. It was that, the smell of rotten meat, nightmares every night, things flying off the shelves, literally, my Ouija board being moved around my room without me moving it, not even kidding. But the board just flew out off there and did not touch any crystal. Anyway, so it got to a lot more worse details that I can talk about if you guys are interested. But we needed somebody to help us, essentially. I basically avoided sleeping at my house at all costs. I have 2 dogs. They hated going into my room, even that hallway. Like, I would grab them, bribe them with treats. I have a pug. You know, pugs are very treat-driven. Nothing. So this entity that possessed the house is the strongest entity that you could possibly contact through the board. It's the same entity that possesses the girl in the classic horror film, The Exorcist. There's a lot of horror movies about this exact entity. It goes by many different names. On the board, it's spelled out. It also spelled out. And then it would go like infinity this way. And then it would do countdowns hella quick. And then we would try to say goodbye. And it wouldn't let us. It would literally dig into the board like this to push it to goodbye. And sometimes when you play with the Ouija board, when you're playing with the demon, it's really possible to lose track of time. And I remember me and my friends, my girlfriends, we actually ended up playing for 5 hours straight. Didn't look at our phones, didn't look at, like, to go get water, didn't use the bathroom, played for 5 hours straight. Also, one of the girls ended up getting possessed. The board basically kept spelling out neck, 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 like super fast. And then we asked whose neck, and then it spelled out one of the girls' names. And then she ended up not being able to breathe and started choking, and it was like crazy, and then she was possessed. Yeah, so that's for a different story time. But basically she ended up going to the doctors that day, and then pretty much what happened was her doctors said it literally looked like as if she was actually choked, like her blood vessels in her veins looked like as someone actually choked her. So then after that is when we knew we had to contact somebody. So then I got in contact with an exorcist named Father Gary Thomas, and he was the real exorcist that was actually based in that one, based off a true story. And the guy that this guy worked with is based off him. So after that, they came by to my house 3 times. They also came by before we turned my room into my son's nursery, because there was no way in heck I was letting him sleep in there. And yeah, let me know if you guys want more in depth on that, because definitely very disturbing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to All Things Jenny. I am Jenny. Happy, spooky, creepy Sundays. I've actually waited all week for this video because spooky Sundays are literally my favorite. So I waited all week because I was expecting a call from my friend from Brazil, because this video is about Ouija boards, and I've never had any experiences using the Ouija board, but my friend certainly have. And I wanted to make sure she said yes and that I could share her story. So I was waiting on her, right? So she lives in Brazil right now, but she used to live in the United States. So when the story that she told me was that one night, her and her friends were playing with the Ouija board, just a regular night. They were asking random questions, just playing around with. They were young. They were like maybe 10, 9, 10. But somehow they had the Ouija board because they bought it here in America, at a Toys R Us or something. So anyway, so they were asking questions, just random questions, and then finally they stopped playing. But the thing that they did is they did not say goodbye. And if you're playing with the Ouija board, you have to close it out and say goodbye. That's just the proper way to do it, or else whatever it is that you're playing with will stay in this RAM, right? So then they all ended up going home, and she stayed at her house because the Ouija board was at her house. And that night, while she was sleeping, she had a dream that something was in her room, and it literally just ran to her bed, basically, like it was looking at her from like the corner of the room, and then jumped on her while she was in bed. But this whole thing is happening in her sleep, and she's fighting this thing. The thing is under her blanket fighting with her, and she's fighting it, and it scratched her leg. And then the next morning when she wake up, she had the freaking scratches on her leg. So her mother basically burned this damn thing. And for some reason, it was not catching on fire. Like, she tried it a couple of times, tried to burn it, but it was not catching on fire. Then finally, they had to start like one of those big fires outside in like a fire pit to burn the Ouija board. It did not want to catch on fire. So ever since then, before that, I always knew that do not play with the Ouija board, because that stuff is really serious and you have to know the rules of it in order to even play it. But if playing it, you're literally risking yourself, because it opens portals to different universes. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can bring other things into this realm. And sometimes playing with that stuff, you can literally get possessed by the demons that are attached to this thing. So you have to be very, very careful. After she told me that, I never wanted to play with the Ouija board. And you know what's funny? She actually still have like a blanket that's the shape of, or not the shape, but it has all the things that you would find in a Ouija board at her house still. I'm like, girl, you are crazy. But yeah, she's like me. She like all the spooky stuff. She's into like spirituality and all that stuff. But yeah, I just decided I wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope to see you in the next video. Do you guys like my hair? I just came from a date. It was fun. It was really, really nice. I wanted to try something like older vintage 90s style kind of thing. That's why my hair is like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Hey y'all, so I'm back, y'all. Please forgive me, y'all. I've been working these 14, 16-hour shift at work almost every day. I got to get these coins, y'all. So that's why I be tired. By the time I come home, I'm like, man, forget them damn videos. I'm tired. But anyway, so I owe y'all a video. I had posted about the Ouija board. Okay, so me and my twin, we was probably like 11, 12 years old. So we always saw this commercial on how they show you before Christmas, they have all these commercials come up with all the toys. So we saw the commercial about the Ouija board. You see a bunch of little teenage girls. They run the Ouija board and they ask them, am I getting my allowance? And the thing's like, yeah, is it would I pass my test? So they made this seem fun. So me and my sister before then never heard of a Ouija board. Never really heard of it. And so we begged our mama, hey mama, can we go get the Ouija board? Can we get this? Because at first we was like, Ouija. We didn't know how to pronounce Oujia. My mom didn't know what the hell we was talking about. So when the commercial came on, we showed mom like, mom, this is. She was like, that's all y'all want. We said we don't want nothing else but that. My mom was like, okay, good. So she was happy because that's one thing she didn't have to buy for two of us. So hey, we just got that one thing. So she was like, bet, cool. So we got it. My grandmother and daddy, nobody knew what we was getting. So when we got it for Christmas, we was like, yes, we were so happy. So my grandma was like, come over here and show grandma what y'all got, baby. And we showed her. She's like, oh, what the hell? My grandmama said, oh, no, ma'am. And she looked at my mom like, why the hell you bought them this? My mom said, oh, ain't nothing. That's just a toy. My grandma was like, that is not a toy. And me and my sister was like, what? So we thrusting the thing in her face. Like, what's wrong with it? We had the box. She was like, get that out. Get away from me. She said, don't come near me with it. Don't come in my room with it. Stay away from me. She said, I prefer y'all to even play it while I'm in this house. Just stay away from me. It was like, why you tripping for it? It's just a toy. My grandma was like, no, it's not. Y'all don't understand what it is. So she was trying to tell us, and my mom was just looking at her like, I guess you just don't tell us. So my grandma said, just stay away from me. Don't come with me. It's like, okay, well, fine. So my daddy came over later that afternoon to see her for Christmas. And my dad said, what y'all got, baby? So we showed our dad. My dad said, what the hell? And we was like, what? He's like, what y'all doing with that? We was like, it's just a toy. My dad was like, no, it's more than just a toy. What the? And my mom's like, leave them alone. That's what they want. That's what they got. Leave them alone. So my dad was like, no. He said, don't come around me with it. Don't bring it. Don't even bring it to, he's always pick us up and take us to his mom's house, or my other grandma's house. He said, you can't take that. It can't come in the car with me. I don't want to see it. Keep it out of my eyesight. And we was like, why everybody tripping? So we was like, okay. So me and my sister was like, man, whatever. So we read the directions. And we planned this thing, it always said, don't laugh over the board because you'll get a big headache or whatever. So we planned the board, just asking silly questions. And so I remember that was around after Christmas break. No, it was during Christmas break. My brother friends came over. They was like, my brother was in high school. Me and my sister was still in middle school. And so he had some older friends, and they was on a basketball team. And so they was like, man, we want to know if we're going to win a championship game. We didn't know we're going to win a championship game. And so we asked the Ouija board, and they said yes. And they was like, oh, okay. Well, how many points? What's the final score? So this Ouija board gave us a score. It was like 49 to 26 or something. Something like that. I'm just throwing some numbers out. So they just laughed. They laughed about it and went on by their business. Y'all, please tell me why them boys came back to the house and said, man, y'all need to get rid of that shit. And me and my sister was like, get rid of what? They said that board. They said that junk is not cool. We already told our mom that's what, that y'all board was telling the truth. I said, well, did y'all win the championship game? They was like, yeah. And we was like, well, what's the problem? And I said, what was the final score? It had the exact same score. But the Ouija board said, and they was like, man, that shit ain't cool. Y'all need to get rid of it. Me and my sister like, man, we don't see the big deal. Y'all won, so what's the big deal? They was like, no, we don't want, So they didn't want to come back over the house no more. They kept saying that junk ain't right. So me and my sister was like, okay. So anyway, so we went to church. So we went to church because we had went to church that following Sunday because they had closed church that particular church that Christmas because everybody was out of town. So I remember we was at church and all the kids was upstairs, and one of the pastors, junior pastors, came in, and he had all the kids. We was like in a row sitting on his couch. So he started on that end. Me and my sister was on this end, back the other end. So he was going down the road asking everybody what they got for Christmas. And me and my sister looked at each other, oh, girl, he gonna love our gift because, you know, we had the best gift up in here. So he got to me and my twin. He said, so twins, what y'all get? Both of us at the same time said, a Ouija board. The pastor said, what the hell? And he's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in church. He said, what? And we was like, a Ouija board. He said, oh, no, y'all can't play with that. And we was like, it's just a game. He's like, no. He said, it's a gateway to hell. And we stopped and was like, what? He says, y'all mama and grandmama didn't tell you? And we was like, no, our grandmama just said, don't come with her and play, don't come around her and play with that. He said, man, y'all need to get rid of that. That's no joke. It's no game. It's evil. It's demonic. Get rid of it. And so me and my sister was like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. So we went on by our business. So we kept playing with it. So it was telling me that I was going to have 4 kids. Well, first, my sister asked, was she going to have kids? And said, yeah, I was going to have 2 kids. And which she did have 2 kids. And then she asked, was she going to be married? It said, yeah. And when my sister asked what she was going to be, I forgot what my sister asked, but it just wouldn't move. So I said, well, get out the way. Let me ask. And I said, well, I have kids? And it's like, yeah. And I said, well, how many kids? And it said 4. But it kept jumping from 4 to 6. 4 to 6. You know, I ended up raising my sister 2 kids. I ended up with 6 kids later. And I was like, man, my sister was like, well, what that mean? I'm going to have 4 or 6 kids. So we didn't know what that meant. And I said, would I be a lawyer? Because I always wanted to be a lawyer. And it was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So I just graduated law school last year. Yay. But anywho, so I was like, okay. And so as we kept playing, this thing started getting weird. It had started moving on its own. So, you know, me and my sister, we have it sitting on the dresser or whatever, and then we know the pendulum start moving by itself. And me and my sister looking at each other because we had our twin beds and our dresser in between the beds. And so I was like, did you move it? She said, you didn't say, you know, I ain't move it. Did you move it? I said, you didn't say me move it. And so me and my sister went and stood by it. We stood over it, and we was like, what's going on? And that thing spelled hurt you. It's a Hurt, you know, Y-O-U. And me and my sister looking at each other, who gonna hurt you? Who gonna hurt who? And it said me. And my sister said, who is me? And I said, And I snatched out through that thing. I said, we don't want to know who it is. I threw that shit on the floor. And I said, no, don't ask her who it is. Because it started getting weird. Then it started saying, you know, later on throughout, you know, me and my sisters just keep it under the bed. And every once in a while, we'll put it out and play with it. And like if we're going to pass our Spanish test or we're going to pass our English test or whatever, then this thing start getting mean. It's like it starts saying, kill you. It starts saying, kill you. And it said, mad. And we was like, oh, hell no. So by this time, we was like, but we're about 13, 14 years old. So by this time, like a year later, we had got to tell you, we had, when it said, kill you, me and my sister said, it's time to get rid of it. So we broke the board in half, which I don't know why, but we threw it in a trash can outside the house. And so we went to school. So when we came back to school, y'all, I kid you not, this goddamn Ouija board sitting in the middle of our room, of the floor, put together like it never been broke. So me and my sister stopped. We was walking around. We just stopped at the door. And we was like, what the hell? So we ran. We was like, Mama. My mom was like, what? We was like, did you put this Ouija board back in that room? My mom's like, what are you talking about? We was like, this Ouija board shit. We didn't tell my mom we broke it, right? Because we didn't want her to get mad because we wasted her money. She said, man, put that shit up. She came in and put that shit up and put it back under the bed. And so me and my sister ran outside. It wasn't in a trash can. So we was like, oh, hell no. So we put that thing back in the box. And because the pendulum start moving, going real crazy. So me and my sister was like, oh, hell no. So we remember what the pastor said. So we threw it in a box. And we used to always walk downtown Mobile to the library on Government Street. So, and we always passed like, we knew some dumpsters around the library. So we was always walk to the library. So when we was walking to the library, we just threw it in a dumpster up there. And we was like, oh, heck no. But my grandmother told us, she said, that's why I didn't want it around. Y'all probably open something. We was like, well, why you ain't tell us when we got it? She said, I didn't want to ruin y'all childhood, but don't ever play with stuff like that again. So that was my But it was a few other things the thing did, but it was crazy. But all right, y'all, I got to get ready to go to work. So I'll try to make another post soon. Bye. If TikTok ain't gone by then. But all right, bye.
What are your opinions about the Ouija board? I don't know, but I just know I had a bad experience and I don't want to play with one again. And this is what happened. So when I was in school, my friend and I, a guy friend, we bought the Ouija board from the toy store. We played with it a few times. It moved, but nothing really scary happened, right? So I had it for a while. But then I brought it to school and I used it with a friend. I'll just call her Alicia, that's not her real name. And the thing started working like really well. It spelled out, the planchette thing started moving and it spelled out it was a man. His name was Daniel. We asked, when did you die? He said 1938 of tuberculosis. He was a 6 foot tall, blonde haired, blue eyed guy. Actually, I'm not sure about the blue eyes. Blonde hair for sure. From England. And then it said, I love you, Alicia. And she was absolutely thrilled to have this beautiful ghost in love with her. I'm thinking the whole time this is her moving it. You know, because he's totally is her type. And I'm thinking she's either moving it consciously or unconsciously. Well, a few days later, we try it again, and it doesn't work. Nothing's moving it. And we're sitting there for like 20 minutes, and she's super frustrated, so I'm thinking, that's weird. If she's moving it, then why isn't it moving this time? Alright, third time around, we get you guys to join us at night. We go to a place of school, and we start using it, and this time it says, hi, this is Daniel. And she's like, oh, really happy. Daniel's back, Daniel's back. And we start asking questions, and then suddenly I feel all the hairs on the back of my neck and on my arm stand up. I felt there was something bad in the room with us for no reason. Nothing weird was happening. And then suddenly the planchette starts moving in circles, in circles, in circles, and I'm freaking out. But before I go on to tell you what happened, the backstory is several years prior, when my friend Alicia was in middle school, she felt a presence on top of her, pushing her down when she's sleeping, trying to molest her. She could not move or scream or anything, and she had to pray in her head and will the thing to go away, and it went away. So, fast forward to this night, we're using the Ouija board, the thing's going circle, 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 and I'm freaking out, and I'm like, what's happening? Because I was already scared. Well, then the thing spells out, I lied. I'm not Daniel. And then it says, I'm from hell. And then it says to my friend Alicia, do you remember me from that night? And then it spelled out, I will rape you tonight. And she lost it. She started screaming out of fear. We told the thing to go away, go away, go away. And finally it went away. And we drove around all night until the sun came up before we dropped her off at school. And if I didn't feel that presence before this happened, I would have thought somebody's messing with us. But I swear I felt a dark presence in the room with us. I don't know how to explain it, but that's my Ouija board story, and that's only half of the story. But after that, I swear I don't want to play with one anymore.
This is by far the scariest story I've ever heard in my entire life. So when I was in high school, I used to do group therapy, and there's specifically this one boy who had a giant laceration across his throat. And I guess his father passed away, and his mom, sister, and him were so grief-stricken that they decided to use a Ouija board to try to talk to him. And I guess the experience went fine, whatever. Well, one day his mom and his sister were out at the house, and he said, I want to use the Ouija board by myself. I really want to talk to my dad. Well, he starts to use the Ouija board by himself, and he's like a younger kid while he's doing this. Something came through the board that was so evil. It overtook his mind, his body, everything, and he says the last thing he remembers is whatever the entity was that overtook him, literally getting him to slice his neck open with a knife. It was terrifying. And of course, no doctors or physicians believed him, so they threw him in an institution, right? But I'll tell you who did believe him. I did. And so did the woman who ran the group therapy. You know why? Because she was a shaman. She was a shaman. She was like, holy fuck. And I was like, holy fuck.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
Okay, so I lived in Salem, Massachusetts for a little bit under a year. And I'm a spooky girl, okay? My mom is a spooky girl. My mom gave me my first deck of tarot cards when I was in the 7th grade, and she also gave me her original Parker Brothers Ouija board. I'll get there. If you can handle long-form content, I'll get there. So, like, I can pick up on the vibes of places, like, very easily. Like, when I was touring apartments in Salem, like, I know the whole thing with the town is, like, completely commercializing, like, an absolute atrocity that happened. But, like, that shit's no fucking joke. So, like, one of the apartments we toured was actually in Gallows Hill, which is right off 95, like, next to the cemetery. And I walked in and the vibes were sinister. And I asked the realtor, I was like, do you think this apartment's haunted? Knowing full fucking well it was. And he was like, would you want it if it was? And I was like, no, maybe. But I did not end up going with that apartment. I went with a different one, and I got, like, I knew that there were presences, plural, because this building was built in 1875 and is super old. So before we even move a single thing, not a suitcase, not a piece of furniture, we unlock the door and open it, and there's like a glass orb on the ground, and we were both like, what is that? My partner goes to pick it up, and I'm like, can I see it? And they were like, no, it's mine, which is very out of character for them. And they were like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what that was, here you go. And I look at the orb, and there's a tiny L scratched into the orb, and I was like, oh, you're so right, L for Liam, this is yours. And let me say, I am ignorant enough to bring a Ouija board into a haunted apartment, but I am not ignorant enough to say that that fucking orb leaves the apartment, because that shit stays right here. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, they like Liam. It's still sort of a toss-up on me. And when I brought the Ouija board in, I didn't notice it at first, but it just felt so crowded in the room that it was in, and it just felt more and more crowded the closer you would get to the Ouija board. Like, I didn't use it, but they knew it was there. And then I go to rehab, as one does, and I come back, and I'm like, get this fucking shit out of my apartment. Somewhere in between that span of time, and after I got it out, I think it was just too late for me. I got into 2 car accidents within the span of less than 60 days, and I was not at fault for either of them. So I gave them to a friend, put it in safe hands, and she got into 2 car accidents. But after the Ouija board was gone, like, it was sort of quieting down, but it was like the typical haunted house, like, stuff. Like, we'd be sitting in our bedroom and we'd hear, like, chairs scooching around in the kitchen, or, like, stuff moving around, like, coming back into a room being like, I didn't put that there. And there were also, like, weird bumps and noises coming from the walls and from the ceiling. But whenever you take out your phone to try and record it, of course it stopped. And I know for a fact that this was happening to the tenant below me, because they contacted my landlady and they were like, hey, there are weird noises coming from upstairs and from, like, in the walls. My landlady texted me and she's like, do you have, like, any appliances running or something? And I was like, no, I have a noise machine. So a maintenance guy comes in and finds nothing, of course. And then, like, closer to me moving out of the apartment, I had a really horrible nightmare. I have night terrors, okay? I have them less now that I'm not living in that apartment / working retail, but I've had some fucking horrifying nightmares. But in this dream, the tenant who lives above me was like, oh, it's a good thing you weren't home last night, because Eleanor was really trying to get in. And I was like, who the fuck is that? And then I just have this vision of this woman who's either, I don't know if it's a night dress or a hospital gown, like, banging on the door, being like, let me in, let me in. That shit. I woke up cold fucking sweat, and I knew, I was like, this has something to do with the property, and I don't know what, and I was too much of a weenie to ask my upstairs neighbor about it, but I did some independent snooping. And so apparently that house was built by Nicholas Noyes, Noyes, who, upon further inspection, was the colonial minister that oversaw the Salem witch trials. he owns property in Salem and also Danvers, because Danvers was old Salem. And so I was like, can't be good. Who the fuck is Eleanor, though? Look down the family tree. She died in 2010. Yeah. On a separate note, I would like to thank the witch who gave me some crystal advice. And now I can't go anywhere without this. There's really so much to this. I forgot to add that whenever I would shower, my showers, even if they started hot, they would always end cold, or they wouldn't get hot at all. And my partner was like, I don't have that problem. And they've showered right after me, and it hasn't been a problem. And if I showered with them in the room, it wasn't a problem. It's just so bizarre. Just don't fuck around with Ouija boards. Just don't. And Caitlin, if you're seeing this, I will text you my address, so you can mail that to me, because I'll be damned if I'm taking that shit on a plane. I feel like I have to be buried with it or something. Like, I can't get rid of it. So just keep that shit wrapped in white cloth, I guess.
A 16-year-old girl wanted to know if her boyfriend was cheating on her, so she bought a Ouija board. Yeah, you heard that right, and just so you know, this story gets crazier. So this girl brings the Ouija board home and plays with it by herself. The first question she asks the Ouija board is, "Do you want to play with me?" In which the Ouija board responds, yes. She said she had suspicions of her boyfriend cheating on her, and she wanted to know the truth, so she asked the Ouija board, "Is my boyfriend cheating on me?" To which the Ouija board replied, yes. She then asked the Ouija board, "Do you know if this girl has a phone number?" To which, of course, the Ouija board replied, yes. She asked the Ouija board if he can give her the girl's number, and it starts giving her a phone number, which she starts writing down on a piece of paper. So after writing down this phone number, she decides to ask the Ouija board if it knows the girl's name, and it gave her the name of Nayeli Ortiz. She immediately leaves the Ouija board, goes to get her phone, and call the number. When she calls, a man answers, and she asks if she can speak with Nayeli Ortiz. The man stays a little quiet, and he's like, yes, but what is this about? And the girl's like, oh, I'm just a friend. Can I just speak with her? To which the man stays quiet on the phone again and says, well, here's the thing. There is a girl named Nayeli Ortiz here, but she's 2 years old, so how can she have a friend? So after that, the girl's realizing that the Nayeli Ortiz the guy's talking about is 2 years old and not another 16-year-old girl. She apologizes and gets off the phone immediately. So she goes back to the Ouija board and asks why it would give her a name of a 2-year-old girl and not another 16-year-old girl that her boyfriend's cheating on her with. The Ouija board responds, that little girl is going to die. In which she says, why? Why is she going to die? And the Ouija board spells out, I'm going to take her. So at this point, the girl's like, no, stop playing with me. You're scaring me, and decides to stop playing the Ouija board. So she stopped playing the Ouija board. The following day, she gets very curious, and she still has the phone number. So she decides to call. So she calls the number, the same guy answers, and she asks to speak with Nayeli Ortiz. Except this time, the guy cussed her out and told her how insensitive it is and how rude it is for her to be asking about his daughter when she had just died that morning. And he hung up on her. So after that, she just couldn't believe that happened. Like, the Ouija board said the girl was gonna die. The girl actually dies. And she just thinks it's a dream. Like, this couldn't have happened to her. So at this point, years have passed. And she's still in disbelief that this could have happened to her and the way it happened to her. So she gets curious again, and she wants to go look for the phone number that's in her wallet so that she can call again and maybe get more information this time. Except for that phone number that's on a piece of paper is no longer in her wallet, and she could never find it again. At this point, she still had the Ouija board, and she hid it under her bed, and she claims that every time they would clean or something, that Ouija board would reappear like in the middle of her bedroom, almost like it wanted her to play with it again. It got so bad that the dad ended up burning that Ouija board, and she mentions buying another one. She bought another one because she wanted to continue to play with it. I don't know, man. I feel like I would have just contacted one of my best friends, would have given me all that information I needed to know if my boyfriend was cheating on me or not. Also, she didn't even give us an update if her boyfriend was cheating on her or not. And that's how it ends, basically. I don't know what to make of it, because I feel like that shit is scary, and if anything, that happening would make me not want to play with the Ouija board again. By the way, this story was originally in Spanish, and it's in one of those podcasts where people can call in and tell them their scary story. So if I find the original creator, I will tag them in the caption, because I don't think where I saw it is the original person, like the original podcast people. But if I do find it, it'll be in the comments. But what the hell do you guys think about this story?
In 2019, I started using the Ouija board a lot, and something bad did happen. Some people say using this board opens a gateway to the other side. You never know what you're going to pull through. Yeah, maybe that's true, and this is the story about what happened to me. I decided that as a way to have fun and engage with my followers, I would play the Ouija board live. I did this every single Friday for about 6 weeks straight, plus some sessions in between. The strangest thing started happening. We started hearing family members in the house that weren't presently home. One day I had left the house and I was down the block and my phone rang and my wife called and she said, "Scott, where are you?" And I said, "I'm in the car." And she said, "So you're definitely not downstairs, right?" I said, "No, absolutely not." She said, "Okay, because I just heard you calling me from downstairs." And that's just one example of the several times we were mimicked in the house. Do you have a similar story?
Here's what not to do if you find pieces of a Ouija board in your house. This guy found chopped up pieces of an Ouija board in his door frame in his house. Check it out. Clearly it was done because the previous house owner probably summoned something bad and did this to then ward off the spirit. But wait until you see what they did. They then tried to put it together. No. That is how you get cursed, you know? You're just re-putting the portal together for the demon to come and haunt you.
Is a Ouija board truly haunted, or is there a medical explanation for these cases? Recently, 28 girls in Colombia were hospitalized at the same time for anxiety and fainting symptoms after playing with a Ouija board. This is similar to a case back in November in which 11 teenage students were hospitalized after they were found passed out in a corridor after playing with a Ouija board. Hospital records say they had abdominal pain, vomiting, and muscle spasms, but ultimately they were diagnosed with food poisoning. Now, there is something called a shared psychotic disorder, in which a normal, healthy person takes on the delusions of a person that is having a psychotic episode around them. What do you think? Can science explain this one, or is the Ouija board truly haunted?
When I saw this, it made me sick to my stomach. Amazon is selling a Christian Ouija board where you can supposedly do a seance and connect directly with Jesus. They're calling it a Holy Spirit board. Listen to me, this is a huge deception, and you will not be communicating with Jesus by doing this. Just like any other Ouija board, it's going to lead you to communicate with demons, and you're actually going to be opening up the door for demons to have access and influence to your life. You do not have to do stuff like this to connect with Jesus and His Holy Spirit. You can connect with Jesus right now in this very moment by simply giving Him your undivided attention and just talking to Him from a pure heart. If you want God to speak to you, then just get a Bible. Please do not buy this game, because trust me, it's more than just a game. And if you want to hear more truth that exposes the devil, then follow and subscribe, because I post stuff about Jesus every single day. God bless you. He loves you.
Did she seriously just say in a Ouija board to connect with Jesus? You know what, though? I can see a lot of Christians actually trying this because... And so this one is a good one, but the other Ouija board is demonic. I can tell you that much. I can hear a lot of Christians already coming in the comment section saying, "Oh, that one I can try, but the other one is demonic." So you're going to communicate with Jesus. Actually, if any Christians in the comment section have ever tried this Ouija board to connect with Jesus, why don't you tell me what Jesus said if you did connect with Jesus, because this is kind of interesting. I'd love to hear from the Christians in the comment sections. And I'm not laughing because I think it's like funny. I think it's hilarious, actually. I think it's hilarious. And the minute I saw that board, it reminded me of the Kabbalah, like the Kabbalah, like Tree of Life Kabbalah. That's what it reminded me of. So do your research on that. An Ouija board to connect with Jesus. That's interesting. You know what? Why did I think of this? Shit. Why didn't I think of this? Anyways, guys.
If you believe using a Ouija board will open a portal, causing irreversible damage and chaos and ruin the rest of your life, these are 3 places you probably don't want to go. I'm a paranormal investigator. If you're my kind of person, you'll watch this, go to all 3 of them, and tell me all about it. The first one is the Grand Midway Hotel in Wimber, Pennsylvania. It has the Guinness World's largest Ouija board, right on its roof. I don't know if there's a better way to put out a bat signal for demons, but they've done it. Personally, I don't believe that using a Ouija board will summon demons, but if you want to try it out, go for it. If one Ouija board is bad, this next place is going to be your worst nightmare. The Salem Witchboard Museum in Salem, Massachusetts, as if Salem weren't haunted enough, has several different walls with Ouija boards all over them. And not just Ouija boards, they have all different kinds of talking boards, spirit boards, witch boards, whatever you want to call them, used by mediums, spiritualists, and witches over 100 years ago. The owner knows a ton of history about them, and you can learn all about how they came to be before they had the huge stigma. The last place is like the Ouija board grand finale. Baltimore, Maryland has a ton of Ouija history as it is. There's a 7-Eleven where the board was named, there's the talking board grave of the man who patented the boards, and now they're getting their own Ouija museum on top of an oddity shop.